Hello everybody, I'm back here again with another video about the Masters of the Universe Classics. Today I intend to talk to you about the Snakemen clan that's led by King Hiss. So I'll show you I have pretty much all the characters from that clan. I'll start with King Hiss first. Here we go, this is the classic version of King Hiss. That's existed also in 1980s storyline as well. This is practically his vintage look. He never appeared in the Filmation cartoon series, but he did appear in the comics from that time period. There is a version of him from the 2000X cartoon series. That is the only Snakeman that I am missing, but aside from that I have all the rest of them. King Hiss here came with snake stuff and the Snakeman shield, which is this one right here. Whoops, there we go. Has a snake symbol on it, and it can be clipped on either of the hands, left or right, and the snake stuff, which is this one right here. And this sword he's holding is not really, well, it is actually his in a way, technically speaking, but it came with his snake version. Meaning there is a figure here that shows King Hiss in his complete snake form. So this is the sword that came with that snake form of his. Now he also came with a snake body that would practically reveal how he looks underneath the skin here. But that body is detachable. Unlike the vintage toy, you have to separate the body pieces like so, and then you clip in the other body, which is the snake body. The upper part, you just clip it in. But people were not really impressed with that particular body, so it took several years for an updated version of the snake form to be released as a separate figure by Mattel. So this is the figure I'm talking about. So this is King Hiss in his snake form, with numerous snakes, and he came with weapons that were also packed with the Snakemen soldiers. So he came with a sword, snake sword, and a shield and a spear, to sort of give him extra things that he can use in battle. But he already looks good like this, so there is really no need. This is sort of an improved body over the one he was released with the other figure. So this is his snake form, an updated look for it. And there they are side by side, King Hiss in his human form and in the snake form. Now going back to this one right here, he can be taken apart at the waist. The head can be removed, but the armor is not removable. And there is an extra head that came with his snake form, where you can just put a half semi-transformed head into a snake form. He also has regular articulation you would expect from majority of the classics figures. And the preference of many people is his human form from the 2000X series. This doesn't seem to be the favorite form. With me it's actually the other way around. I prefer the classic version over the other one. This is the form I know since I was a kid, and this is the one I used to when it comes to him. So this would be all that I can say about his human form. In regards to the snake form, he can be also taken apart at the waist, and I'm not sure about the head because I didn't really try, but the head can move left to right, at least there is articulation there, and the snakes are bent a bit bendable on both sides because they have wire inside, and he has articulation in the legs, so he can move the legs back and forth and do a split as well. So that would be King Hiss, the leader of the Snakemen. The next in line we have Rattlor, or as he's known in the 2000X series as General Rattlor. meaning as a sort of one of the main commanders of the snakemen, or one of the King Hiss's generals. He came with the snake stuff, and this is pretty much his exact look, the way he looked in the vintage toy line. The sword again is a snake sword that I just put to him as an addition. It came with the snake soldiers, so I just gave him a sword to so he can wield an extra weapon. This sword did not come with him. But the snake stuff is pretty much the same as King Hiss's, just in a brown color, and Rattlor himself is pretty much made in brown and yellow color. The vintage version has the action feature that the tail would rattle like a real snake, but that feature was taken out of the classic version. He also came with this extra piece here that would mimic his other action feature from the vintage line. That would be that his head would strike out on a long neck. But since there is no button and that feature was not built in, it was made as a separate neck piece that you can just connect onto on top of the neck, and then just attach the head on top, so you can display him with a long neck or just a short neck with the head being down. He has, instead of a rubber tail like the vintage version, he has a hard plastic tail, and that tail has articulation in the sense that it can move left and right pretty far both ways. And the rest of him also has articulation in the sense that arms and legs have the usual movements, and the head, as I mentioned, and the neck are removable. He is a known character in the sense that he did have an appearance in the She-Ra cartoon series, and he also had appearance in numerous comics, and then again in the 2000X cartoon series as well. Together with him, usually the following snakeman would be paired up with him, and that would be Tung Lashor, who is also a classic snakeman character, who did have appearance again in the comics and the 2000X cartoon series and the She-Ra cartoon series. He is supposed to be, again, one of the main snakemen that surround King Hiss. The strangest thing is that even though he has a long tongue like a snake and features of a snake, to me he looks more like, his head more resembles, in my opinion, an actual frog head. And the tongue as well, because as we know that the frogs do use their tongues to catch flies and their prey. But in a way, I think he was just revised to actually be an actual snakeman, because snakes also have quite long tongues altogether, some species of them. But anyway, going back to the figure, he came with his classic weapons, the same weapons and the same look that he had as a vintage figure. He came with the snake stuff yet again, because most of the snakemen do come with that kind of weapon, and his snake stuff is purple in color, and it looks the same as the one from Rattlor and King Hiss. And he came with this insect crossbow. He has usual articulation. He has no armor to speak of. He has usual articulation in the arms and legs, and his head is removable. He came with an extra head, which portrays him without the tongue sticking out. And since none of the classics figures, majority of them does not have their old vintage action features built into them, they're completely taken out. In each figure, including this one, those features are still there, but without the actual function, so they're just sort of either built in, or as in case of Tung Lashor, the tongue that sticks out in the vintage figure was triggered by a knob on his back. In this case, it's already molded in his mouth, so there is no actual button or knob at the back to activate the feature. So this is Tung Lashor, who, according to the comics anyway, he served both Hordak and King Hiss at different times, together with Rattlor. Next in line among snakemen is Kobra Khan. Kobra Khan started out, at least in the vintage series, he started out as a soldier or a warrior of Skeletor. He is coming from a snake clan that are sort of descendants of the original snakemen, and he was the one who helped Skeletor find the tomb of King Hiss and release King Hiss and his warriors in order to join forces and defeat He-Man. Kobra Khan, based on different stories and based on different interpretations of his character through different cartoon series and such, he was either willingly freeing King Hiss on his own initiative, as in 2000X series, or as in Vintage series, comic book series, he was actually just assisting Skeletor to find the actual Tung deep inside Snake Mountain. His figure came with a few things. First of all, his look is based on the classic look, except there were two heads that he was packed with. His classic head, which doesn't have these Kobra extensions on his head, and then this one that does. He also came with his laser gun, the same one that he has as a vintage figure, and he came with this little lizard friend of his that he never had as a vintage toy, but he did have it in the 2000X cartoon series. He's just put on his shoulder, that's where he usually keeps him. He has the usual articulation that's to be expected. Again, there is no armor in his case that can be removed. He does not have his original feature that the vintage figure does have, and the original feature was when you remove, by the way, the head is removable, that when you remove the head and you fill his body with water and put the head back on, the head would act as a spray to release water in the shape of a poisonous mist. That feature again is not part of the figure because Mattel decided that in the Classics line majority of these features will not be built in because of due to the cost issues. So in his case he comes without that feature. There is no spray mist action feature built in this time around. In the 2000X cartoon series he is known to have been very loyal to King Hiss, but he's also at odds and practically an enemy with General Rattlor because the two of them do not stand each other much. Rattlor considering him to be an inferior snakeman, and Kobra Khan thinking that Rattlor is just underestimating him every step of the way. So there is a hatred between the two characters, which did not exist in the old cartoon series. Anyway, that will be the story of Kobra Khan. The next character was made for the purposes of the Classics line, and he was only mentioned by name in the Vintage line in one of the comics. That would be the Nameless one. He's practically an evil villain from Orko's homeland of Trolla, and he's practically just a slightly larger evil version of Orko in a way. It's not Orko himself, but just another character who looks a little bit nastier, and he controls dark magic and all that sort of thing. Supposedly he is the one, according to the new mini-comic books from the Classics, he's the one who freed the snakemen and decided to use them to conquer Eternia for him. Many people were very disappointed with this character because he looks ridiculous if he's the one to lead the snakemen, because he's just too small and completely non-interesting in every way. But I still display him with the snakemen for the sake of the fact that he's supposedly the one who freed them, and he's also supposed to be above King Hiss, which again I find a little bit ridiculous because as far as I know King Hiss is the only leader of snakemen. There is nobody above him. But anyway, going back to him, he does have a lot of detail on his body because there is a lot of pouches and things of that sort all molded into him, and there is a small knife as well. He has one weapon which is this, how would I call it, a sort of a snake stuff with a big snake medallion on top, a curl snake with a precious stone in the middle. He also came with two heads, that since the head can be removed, and he has limited articulation due to the fact that he's such a small figure, and practically the articulation that he has is mostly in the arms and the head. The head can be removed, and the other head, which I used to make a completely new character, is still a Nameless one's head, but with an actual armored helmet instead of the hood. So maybe in another video I will show how that character looks like, or any of my custom creations that I did just by switching certain body parts and heads. He also came, which I don't display him with because that particular thing I'm going to mention is a very big piece and it's too heavy for him. It keeps pulling him down. It's supposed to be about this big, plastic translucent yellow piece that resembles him releasing his, or actually it's green, I believe, sorry, I'm not sure now, it could be green or yellow, a plastic piece that resembles or mimics the idea when he's releasing his dark magic out of his hands, and it's attachable to either of the hands. But as I said, I don't really display it because it's too heavy and he keeps falling over when I attach that on his hand. Aside from that, if I'm not mistaken, he also came with a plastic stand that can be attached below to make him float, or to have an appearance of floating. And yeah, so that's as far as he goes. And in the modern mini comics, he becomes the enemy of Eternia when Skeletor disappeared, and He-Man became the king, and his son Hero became the new He-Man. So that's when he makes an appearance to cause trouble. So the other two characters I will talk about, let's start with Snakeface here. Snakeface is also a classic Snakeman character who appeared in the Vintage toy line, but he never had an appearance in the Filmation series, and he did had several appearances in the 2000X cartoon series, and of course in numerous He-Man comics. He is a character who is practically, the way it seems to me, he's based on a Medusa from Greek mythology, in the sense that he's just a male version of Medusa. For those of you who are not aware who Medusa is, Medusa was a demon character from Greek mythology who had the power to turn any warrior into stone by looking at them with her eyes, and her hair and eyes were compromised of snakes. And it was a Greek hero, Perseus, who defeated her by making her look at her own reflection in his shield, and which turned her into permanently into a rock. And he was able to, well, he defeated her with a shield, and he was also able to cut her head off as a proof that he did kill her. Now, in the sense of Snakeface here, he's a loyal warrior of King Hiss, and the thing is, He-Man of course does not kill him, and He-Man never kills anybody among his enemies, but he does defeat him in a similar fashion by making him look into the reflection of his own shield, or even his power sword, which practically turns Snakeface into stone, because Snakeface, just like Medusa, has the exact same powers. He's able to turn his enemies into stone by just looking at him, because he has all these numerous snakes on his head, on his face, and on his chest, which practically contain the power of turning enemies into stone. He came with his vintage weapons, again a snake staff and a snake shield that's compromised of smaller snakes, and he came with an extra head that shows him without the snakes coming out of his face. The snakes, some of the snakes are removable, specifically these two on the chest. He did come with a cover for the chest when the snakes are removed, so that the chest can be closed. And also he has a great detail all over him, in the sense that the shield is quite detailed by showing all the snakes curled up together to form a shield. And he has also some snakes wrapped around his arm as well, on both of the arms. And his articulation is the usual one, the head is removable, and the armor is removable as well. And that is as far as the Snakeface goes. Those are all the particular details about him. The next character is again a classic Snakeman character, the last one among them that's known, or very well known. That's Squeeze. Squeeze is practically I would say, resembling a python, because he has all these extremely long extendable arms that he can use to wrap around the enemy or pretty much squeeze the life out of them. And the arms are somewhat bendable because there is a wire inside each of them, and he looks exactly like his vintage figure. And he also came with pretty much the same sort of a weapon, or a pet if you want to call it that way, which is this gruesome looking purple snake that fits in either of his hands, but it doesn't have any particular use for it. It's just more like a pet, I guess, because it doesn't really look like a weapon. His head is removable, and the funny thing is, the head, again, just like Tung Lashor, the head itself, when you look at it, especially from the side view, the head doesn't look anything like a snake head. It more resembles a lizard head, or even a dinosaur head, like a T-Rex even, or even more so, it resembles a sort of a crocodile or an alligator head. Again, that's not really how the snake would really look like. So, but with the green color and everything, I guess he would, in a way, resemble a snake after all, especially because of his very long arms that resemble the body of a python who can crush its prey by squeezing it. He has pretty much usual articulation except for the arms, which do not have any articulation other than in the shoulders. The armor is not removable, the head is removable, and the legs have articulation as well. So does the waistline, and just between the waistline and the chest as well. He can do an ab crunch as well. What else to say about him? I can only mention another interesting detail, that in the 2000X cartoon series, where he makes an appearance in several episodes, he is sort of an updated look of this version, and in that cartoon his head resembles more the head of a snake, not of an actual dinosaur or a crocodile. He looks more like an actual snakeman with an actual snake head on it. And in the old cartoon series he never had any appearance, meaning the Filmation series, and he did have his vintage action figure. It looks identical to this one, and he also appeared in numerous comic books from the 1980s period. So that is Squeeze. Now I will just show, on a final note, I will just show you the two snake soldiers who are also army builders for the snakemen. That would be these two fellows right here. They are obviously coming in different design in the sense of colors and in the sense of armor, and the heads are different as well. They come with the same set of, pretty much the same set of weapons. They come with these snake shields, with these long curvy spears, which are practically same like the snake sword, which is also curved, except these have a handle extension. And they also came with a type of a mace as well. So they were packaged together in a pack of two, and I have four. So I have these two and I have two more, so four all in all for a small army to display. Their heads are removable, and their armors are removable as well, and they have extra heads as well. Now what do I mean by that? In the sense that these heads that you see here, they are with open mouths, but the extra heads for both of them are the ones that look exactly the same as the ones they have, except the jaws and the mouths are closed. So they can be that way displayed in two different ways. They did not have any appearance whatsoever in the Filmation cartoon series, since there was no King Hiss to be shown, so they were not shown either. This is their look. How would they look in the 2000X cartoon series? Because in that cartoon series, snakemen soldiers are quite numerous, and they appeared in several episodes of the season 2 of the cartoon, and they came in different colors, sizes, designs, and body shapes, but these are the most generic ones that were released so far. And one can customize them any which way, because the heads are, as I said, they are removable, and the armor is removable, so there is always a way for improvement. Or I have seen some people also coloring them in other colors that were shown in the cartoon series to just kind of give them more color diversity among them. So that would be that. And one last little note on the side is this snakeman medallion, which was packed with the snake men at arms, whom I do have, but I don't like displaying him with that snake face. I just transformed them into a younger version of men at arms without mustache. But I did keep this with the snake men, and this is just a little medallion that was used in one of the episodes of the 2000X series, where King Hiss was able to use this to transform one part of the population of Eternia into actual snake men by just infecting them with the power that was beaming from this relic that he used, until it was destroyed, and then majority of those who were infected returned back to their original forms, whether it's human or otherwise. So I like to display King Hiss with this piece, because it really does belong to him. So far there were no female snake men released, and there is no known characters who are snake men among them. But I believe these would be the only characters we'll see for the Snake Clan, unless there will be, however, a new character. I believe his name is Viper. He's coming from Super 7, but I am definitely not familiar with that character, and he's new. So yeah, I'm only familiar with the classic ones, meaning the ones that I have shown in this video. Anyway, with that note, I'll just bring this story to a close. I do appreciate you guys watching my video, and I hope you were able to stay awake throughout this long story of mine, and that you enjoyed what you heard. So that's it for now. I'll catch you guys again next time with another video about the Masters of the Universe Classics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.